Good morning. We'll get started in just a moment. Okay, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning. I hope everyone's having a good Friday so far. I just want to let you know that the purpose of this webinar is really to give you an overview of what you can expect in the mindfulness series training series. Really happy you're all joining. Before we get started, I just want to point out a couple of things about your dashboard over on the right-hand side of your screen. You can minimize it or maximize it. So there's a little arrow button, I think it's red for you, and you can just click on that if it's in your way, and it'll shrink over to the side even smaller. But over in that dashboard, you'll find an area for questions. So if you have a question, you can either type it in the question box, or you can click on the little green hand, and that will raise your hand, and I can take you off mute so you can ask a question. They're also over on the control panel. If there's a handout, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I want to make sure that you know it's there. It's a Word document called How to Meditate. So you can simply download that and print it or save it for yourself to refer to. Okay, so let's get started. I'm also going to have a questions section at the end, but feel free to ask questions as we go if something comes up, and just be a little patient with me because I can't always immediately see that you've raised a hand or posted a question. But I'm happy to stop and answer any questions. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start with a poll, which is also over on your dashboard, and this one's very simple. I just want to know how many of you have studied mindfulness prior to this training. Just want to get a feel for the levels of experience before we get too far into it. So just all you need to do is click on yes or no. And I'm just watching your votes come in. So far, it's a no. Okay, that's great because this series is designed for beginners. It's designed for people who have never done this, or for people who might practice a little bit of mindfulness or meditation, but they don't know how to make it really a way of life. So if you did not vote, because I have a couple who have not voted, if you didn't vote and you have experience, that's okay too. This will be a good reminder. And the format we're using is experimental. So if you have experience, then maybe you can contribute to the process and help us make this even more meaningful and helpful. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so let's start with what is mindfulness. And most of you probably know the simplest explanation is mindfulness is being present, always being present. But that's pretty vague for us, especially with our busy, hectic lives. So I wanted to give you some of the scientific explanations and the study explanations of what mindfulness is. And it certainly doesn't cover everything, but this will give you hopefully a good idea. So mindfulness is an orientation that allows us to see things more as they really are rather than through our distorted lenses and agendas. And by the way, before I get too much further, if at any point during the webinar you can't hear me, please pop it in a question, type it into the question box so I can make sure that we're not having any technical difficulties. Okay, so you know we see things through our own distorted lenses and agendas. Life is perception, so this is about seeing things more as they really are. It's about maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. Now, I have to let you know that's not going to happen day one. This takes time and practice and patience to sort of cultivate this way of being, but that's the ultimate goal. Mindfulness is the practice of acceptance, meaning that we pay attention to our thoughts and feelings without judging them. And that provides a lot of relief, as you'll see in a minute. It's the cultivation of patience toward our own minds and bodies, which I think we all need. And it's also the strengthening of what's called beginner's mind. And beginner's mind is really just getting back in touch with the joy of life. You know, the old saying that, you know, we don't stop to smell the roses. Well, a beginner's mind is really where you do notice the roses or nature or the joy of laughter in a child, or all those little things that we have allowed ourselves to get so distracted by the busyness of life that we may not be paying attention to anymore. And then finally, it's the building of self-trust. Oh, one more thing, the non-striving. So mindfulness is non-striving. And so I don't want you to be alarmed if you see that or read it in the upcoming trainings. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing anything. Non-striving is being instead of doing, but you still go about your life. You still do your job. You're still productive, actually more productive than you probably are now. But it's really about not resisting the flow of life. It's about not fighting against what comes naturally. So it's much more being instead of doing. So I want to just touch briefly on the connection between mindfulness and psychology, and the reason for that, which we'll cover momentarily, is that we are going to be using basically two forms of mindfulness training. One of them happens to be related to cognitive therapy, so I want to make sure that you see the connection between these two. So the elements of mindfulness, awareness, and non-judgmental acceptance of one's moment-to-moment experience are regarded as potentially effective antidotes against common forms of psychological distress. So rumination, anxiety, worry, fear, anger, all of our emotions, I mean, we all have those, but many of those can involve the maladaptive tendencies to avoid, suppress, or overengage with one's distressing thoughts and emotions. So we're going to be incorporating some mindfulness-based cognitive therapy in the training specifically to address these issues. So let's talk about some of the benefits of mindfulness. Why you're doing this. So first of all, it boosts our immune system's ability to fight off illness. It increases positive emotions while reducing negative emotions and stress. It increases density of gray matter in brain regions linked to learning, memory, emotion regulation, and empathy. There are early studies now being done about the thickening of the cerebral cortex, which again is increasing density, and they think that that may be applicable and helpful in dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia, because in those conditions the cerebral cortex actually thins. It helps us tune out distractions and improves our memory and attention skills. And this particular benefit speaks to the studies correlating mindfulness with increased productivity. If we can remember more and pay attention and stay focused, we're more productive. It makes us more likely to help someone in need and increases activity in neural networks involved in understanding the suffering of others and regulating emotions. Evidence suggests it might boost self-compassion as well. And this benefit directly correlates with something that we constantly deal with in our field, which is compassion fatigue. Some more benefits. Makes couples more satisfied with their relationship, makes each partner feel more optimistic and relaxed, and makes them feel more accepting of and closer to one another. So while we're on this personal topic, I want to remind you, in case you didn't read it or you've forgotten, being mindful is not something that you turn on and off. So we can't just teach you to be mindful at work. You're either mindful or you're not mindful. So we'll be using examples and exercises throughout the series that will be professional-based and personal-based, because it's all one thing. And specifically related to this, I want to make sure you know that you are welcome to share any of the information that you receive through this training and the exercises with anyone you choose. So if you want to work with a significant other or with your children or your family, it's absolutely fine. And if you have any questions or you need additional resources, you can contact me at any time. This one I felt was important because of the program we're in. It reduces pregnancy-related anxiety, stress, and depression in expectant parents. Parents report being happier with their parenting skills and their relationship with their kids, and I thought it was quite interesting that studies showed their kids were found to have better social skills when they have mindful parents. And then finally, it helps healthcare professionals cope with stress, connect with their patients or clients, improve their general quality of life. It's also very helpful for mental health professionals by reducing those negative emotions and anxiety, and of course increasing positive emotions and feelings of self-compassion. A couple of more unusual benefits of mindfulness that I wanted to share with you. Evidence suggests mindfulness reduces anger, hostility, and mood disturbances among prisoners by increasing their awareness of their thoughts and emotions, helping with their rehabilitation and reintegration. I found that powerful because if it can reduce anger and hostility in incarcerated persons, the benefits to us would obviously be tremendous. And then studies suggest it can reduce the symptoms of PTSD. And then the final one, of course, we won't be doing any work with PTSD or with prisoners, but we will be doing some mindful eating activities. And that's one of the benefits of mindfulness. It fights obesity. So practicing mindful eating encourages healthier eating habits, helps people release weight, and helps them savor the food that they do eat. So lots of benefits, and there are lots more, hundreds and hundreds of benefits, but I thought these were the most pertinent to what we're doing. Techniques in mindfulness-based stress reduction to regulate emotional and physiological state when feeling stressed include, and we will be learning all of these, at least bits of them, sitting meditation, the body scan, walking meditation, a loving kindness meditation. You'll be introduced to yoga, tai chi, and qigong. And then it's important to remember there are endless ways to meditate. I certainly haven't written out every daily exercise that goes through May yet, so I want to hear from you if there's something that you do want to learn specifically. And I don't know yet what else we'll be introducing, but they all begin with breathing. So the very first thing I'm going to ask you to do is a very simple exercise. It's a de-stressing technique, and it will start to prepare you for the lessons. Just FYI, the daily lessons will start on October 3rd, so 2 weeks from now. We needed the 2 weeks to do these webinars to get everyone introduced to the concept, and then we'll start with the daily exercises. So this one is important because it may not be natural for you. What I want you to do is I want you to take one hand and put it on your chest, and then take your other hand and put it on your stomach. And the best place to put it is if you put your thumb where your belly button is, and then lay the rest of your hand down over your stomach. So what I want you to do with this is I want you to breathe in through your nose and do it kind of slowly, and breathe out through your mouth and see which rises first. Is it your chest or is it your stomach? So let's do that now. Take a deep breath in through your nose and then let it out. And see if you could tell which rose first. Was it your chest or your belly? Now this is much easier to feel when you're laying down, so maybe this could be your first practice. Each night when you lay down to go to bed, just take a second to breathe in deeply and with your hands on your chest and your belly and see which rises first. And what you're going for here is to learn to make your belly rise first. So you want to take that deep breath in all the way down to your belly and then expand up to your chest. And the reason for that is the way to fully oxygenate your blood. So we want your blood oxygenated because that makes your brain sharper. And despite the fact that meditation, which is a major tool we'll be using, meditation is very relaxing, but true meditation, what it's doing is waking up the parts of your brain that you've kind of ignored or that have gone to sleep. So in most cases, I'll tell you not to do meditations at night when you lay down because, frankly, you'll fall asleep. But this little exercise you could do, it'll help you relax, plus it'll help you practice breathing down to your belly. Okay, great. So there are multiple forms of mindfulness training and practices. There's mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is MBSR. There is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. There is mindfulness-based childbirth and parenting, which is MBCP, and then there are religious-based mindfulness programs. What we'll be doing is focusing on evidence-based practices that include MBSR and MBCT throughout the entire series. But you're welcome to individually adapt to any form of practice. So for instance, if you're pregnant, you may want to do the lessons but supplement them with specific techniques that are used for MBCP. Or if you are religious or spiritual, you may want to adapt it into whatever it is that you're practicing. And that's absolutely fine. I just want to make sure you're aware we'll be focusing specifically on MBSR and MBCT techniques because those have a long track record. They've been thoroughly studied and they're very effective. But these other forms are effective as well, and I don't want anyone to feel like you have to just follow exactly what we're saying. We really want this to be flexible and useful for you. So let's talk about mindfulness-based stress reduction. This was created by Jon Kabat-Zinn about 40 years ago. And in his program, students meet for 2 to 3 hours a week for 8 weeks straight, and then they practice every day at home in between the classes. It has been shown to help tens of thousands of people build mindfulness. And it's Jon Kabat-Zinn's program, the MBSR, that really caught my attention and led to the development of this series. I don't know about you, but I can guess, but I certainly know about me. I don't have 2 to 3 hours a week to drive somewhere to take a class, even though I know it's really valuable. I just don't. And especially with traffic, that's like a 5-hour chunk of time every week for 8 weeks straight. It's not going to happen for me. I'd probably make the first 2, then skip 1. You know what I mean? I just know it wouldn't work for me. And so what we've tried to do is take the gems of what he does in that program, but break it into these little 10-minute spots a day. So instead of 3 hours a week for 8 weeks, we're going to do 10 minutes a day for 8 months. We're going to really try to make this a habit where every day for 10 minutes we specifically focus on these exercises and see if we can build mindfulness. That is also the reason for you completing the pre-assessment, and then we're going to ask you to do a post-assessment because we want to see, is it effective if it's in these little tiny chunks of time but every day versus a bigger chunk of time once a week. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, and I just want to make sure you know that's kind of how this came about and why we're really aiming to try to keep everything so short. So for over 35 years, they've been studying the MBSR program, and it's been replicated all across the country, well, around the world actually, and it has been shown to, it's consistent, reliable, and reproducible demonstrations of significant and clinically relevant increases in trait measures which are usually stable in adulthood, indicative of enhanced psychological hardiness and greater sense of coherence over the course of those 8 weeks during the intervention. And maintenance of these gains for up to 3 years of follow-up. So when they do the 3-year follow-up, they find there's no decline in mindfulness, which indicates to me that once you get this and it becomes a habit, then you've got this tool for life. Now, if you have time, I don't want to make the assumption you don't, I highly recommend taking the classes. I'm sure you're all familiar with Dr. Dan Siegel. He created the UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center, and they offer the 8-week program. Really, it's a duplicate of Jon Kabat-Zinn's program. And then additionally, there's a group in town called Insight LA, and they also provide the 8-week course. So if that appeals to you and you have the time to do that, I think that's great. So I'm not in any way trying to get you not to do that, but I just know for most of us, it's not realistic because we're too busy. Okay. So the second area we're going to cover is mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So basically a group of people adapted the MBSR program model specifically for people suffering from depression and chronic unhappiness. So MBCT combines mindfulness practices with practices from cognitive therapy, and it's also been backed up by a great deal of research. So it combines the ideas of cognitive therapy with meditative practices and attitudes based on the cultivation of mindfulness. The heart of the work lies in becoming acquainted with the modes of mind that often characterize mood disorders while simultaneously learning to develop a new relationship to them. So this would be, I've included a website that has a list of therapists trained in MBCT just as a resource in case you or someone that you know is suffering from depression or is really going through more than just an emotional challenge where, you know, this might support them. But we're also going to use some of their techniques because they are excellent at creating habits and changing our behaviors. By the way, this webinar will be posted on a website that we're currently setting up. So in a couple of weeks when the program starts, you'll have a place to go back. If you want information, if you can't remember something we covered, you'll have full access to everything that we're doing now and for the rest of the program, it'll be posted there. So if you need this list in the meantime, by all means, send me an email and I'll send you the link. Okay, moving on. Mindfulness-based childbirth and parenting. Now, we will not be using this model in this training, but because of the program we're in, I wanted to share it with you in case it would be a helpful resource, again, to you if you're pregnant or to any of your clients. Nancy Bardacchi created this program, MBCP, and it offers mindfulness training to expectant parents. So she covers all the description, detailed instructions, everything about it in a book she wrote called Mindful Birthing. It increases confidence and decreases fear of childbirth. It taps into deep inner resources for working with pain. It improves couple communication, just like we talked about, connection and cooperation, and it provides stress-reducing skills for greater joy and well-being. All right, let's take another little check-in here. And this time what I want to know is if you currently meditate, how many times per week? And if you don't, you can just check off the box that says, I don't meditate. So if you could just complete the poll over on the right-hand side. The majority do not. That's not only okay, but that's expected. And okay, great. So it looks like a couple of people may meditate at least 1 to 2 times a week. That's really good. So the interesting thing about meditation is that all of the studies show that the biggest health benefits come from doing it every day. So in other words, you're a regular meditator. And that really means you have to create the habit. So hopefully for those of you that meditate already 1 to 2 times a week, we can get you in the habit of doing it every single day. Even if it's for a shorter period of time, that still benefits you. And for those of you who don't, that's good because we're just going to start at the basic 101, very beginning of it. For those of you that do meditate even 1 to 2 times a week, as we go forward, if you have tips or techniques or you want to share an experience that you think would help others trying to learn this, please feel free to share it because we really want to make this as useful as possible to everyone. All right, if I can get control of this mouse. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I want to talk about a few myths about mindfulness meditation. One of the biggest questions that I get, it has to do with sitting in unnatural positions. So I want you to know that first of all, if you can contort your body into those positions, good for you. I cannot. But the purpose of them is really, in meditation, regular meditation, the purpose is to keep your back straight. And the reason for keeping your back straight is you're trying to keep your airflow open, your diaphragm open. So a lot of what we're going to be doing is based on paying attention to our breath, but we want to make sure we're breathing. We want to make sure our belly is expanding. So these positions, like the lotus position where you sit cross-legged and then you put one foot on each thigh, that forces your back to be straight. Now, when I say straight, I don't mean rigid. We want your back to be straight in a natural position, not unnatural. So we all have a natural curve to our spine. We're not trying to straighten your spine out, but we want you to sit up straight, and that way all the breath flows. So you can do that sitting in a chair. So you put your feet flat on the floor and you sit up straight. And if you use a chair, I would suggest you scoot forward a little so that you're not leaning back against the back. Right? So the support is there if you need it, but you're not relying on the support of the back of the chair. You can sit on the floor. I frequently sit cross-legged. I can't quite pull my feet up over my thighs, but I can sit cross-legged and sit up straight. If you sit on the floor, I highly suggest that you get a pillow. If you don't have one, there are special meditation pillows. You don't have to use one. Just a regular pillow, or I use a big outdoor pillow because it's thick. But the idea, if you're sitting on the floor, and especially if you're sitting cross-legged, you want your knees slightly lower than your hips. So the pillow accommodates that, plus you don't get too uncomfortable. But anyway, that's all it is. We just want you to be comfortable. Lying down is a great way to meditate. You're straight, lying down on your back. But again, if you're just starting, I don't recommend it because 99% of the time, if you're tired, and most of us are tired a lot of the time, you're going to fall asleep. And the idea here is to wake up your brain, not put it to sleep. So at least at the beginning, I would suggest that you sit in a chair or sit on the floor. I've been meditating a long time, and I still do not meditate at night unless I'm trying to make myself go to sleep because I fall asleep. You can use it as a sleep aid, but we also want you to meditate where you're not falling asleep. Okay, there's the finger movement. In fact, you can see some in the picture where they're doing this. These are called mudras. They are specifically used to help meditators focus on a specific energy center in the body. We're not going to be doing that at the beginning. Later, I don't know. As I get feedback from you, and if you want to learn to do that, it's really about working with your chakra system. We might. But for the first couple of months, we're going to focus on really getting good at just simple meditations that relax us and help us to start noticing our thoughts. So you don't have to worry about that. We want you to be comfortable. So when you're sitting, and if you know mudras, you know what you want to do. Again, you can adapt this to whatever you want. But what we're going to do is ask you to sit comfortably and place your hands in whatever position is comfortable for you. I will tell you that it is somewhat awkward to hold your hands in your lap for any extended period of time. So one thing that makes that more comfortable is to put a pillow on your lap and then rest your hands or arms on the pillow. But you find what's comfortable for you, but you don't have to do finger gestures. Also, the whole humming of Om, or there's another one that's Hu, that is designed for meditations where you are trying to quiet your mind. And we're not going to be doing that at the beginning of this program. Again, maybe later toward the end, but our goal is not to make the mind quiet. It's not to stop the thought processes. It's to learn how to separate and detach from those thoughts that pop into your head. When you use the tone Om or Hu, it creates a vibration that actually makes it hard to think about things. So that's the purpose of it. But again, we're not going to do that at the beginning. If you'd like to do that, again, you're welcome to. You do not have to have altars and incense. Now, I like altars and incense when I'm doing some of my meditations, especially the ones that are more spiritual based. Again, we're not doing that in this program, but if you want to, you're welcome to. But I don't want you to think that you need to do anything fancy or that you need to go into a spiritual or religious framework in order to meditate. You do not. That ties right in with I've actually had people ask me this, but no, you do not have to wear orange robes. Hare Krishna, Buddhism, several religions include meditation as part of their religious rituals, but it is, again, not necessary at all. And it's not, I really want you to think in terms of, even if you decide to use this for spiritual or religious purposes, there is a science to this. It's really about neuroscience, and we're looking for those evidence-based practices that tap into that. So you can expand it to whatever you want, but I don't want you to feel like that's the typical meditator. There are many CEOs in major corporations that meditate at work, and they're not wearing orange robes. And then I have had 3 or 4 people approach me in the last month concerned that meditation is a Buddhist practice. It is a Buddhist practice, but Buddha did not create meditation. Meditation is much older than Buddhism. They just happen to pick it up as, again, one of their rituals. So it's not a religious practice. It's not just a Buddhist practice. And many religions practice meditation, not just Buddhists. So many people feel that meditation and prayer are very closely related, for instance. So it's not about that. You don't need to be a Buddhist. If you are a Buddhist, good for you. I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying that's not our purpose. Okay, so we're going to get into the basics. So again, you can practice over the next 2 weeks, kind of start getting a feel for it. So the first step in meditating is to prepare to meditate. And it is a preparation. The reason that we're asking you to make it a preparation is that's going to help reinforce cognitively that this is something that you're going to do every day and that this is important. So you know how your brain is. It's going to focus on what you're focused on. So if you start creating your own ritual, your own habit, the brain will catch on fairly quickly. To make any habit permanent, you need to do it 28 days at least in a row. If you skip a day, you have to start the clock over for the 28 days. And again, just the way the brain functions. So what you want to do to get ready to meditate is you want to, first of all, beforehand, pick your place. So ideally, you want to find a space that you can have quiet for 10 minutes. More if you want it, but we're asking for 10 minutes a day minimum. And if you pick a place and you always go back to that same place, your brain will start to associate meditation with that place. So if you live in tight quarters, I certainly do. I live in a very small house. There's not a lot of extra space. And so when I first started, it was my bed. I just made it where every morning I got up, made my bed, and then sat back on my bed and did my meditation. Now I can meditate anywhere, but still to this day, if I go into the bedroom early in the morning and sit on my bed, I can feel my brain starts to change. The chemicals start to release because my brain associates that with meditation. But you want to choose quiet locations. So let's say, for instance, you don't have a place except in your bedroom, but you don't want to meditate in bed because you fall asleep. You might pick a spot in a corner and clear out whatever's in that corner and put down a pillow or a couple of pillows or maybe a pillow and a blanket. You know, some it's just a little nook, your little space. And then, of course, you can add anything you want to it. So if you do want to use incense or candles or something else, that's fine. But just make it where that's the special spot for meditating. And you'll see this supports you in making this a habit. Please turn off your phone. So if you are going to use your phone, which we'll talk about in a minute, as the alarm, put your phone on airplane mode so that it does not ring, blip, beep, buzz, anything for just 10 minutes. So for those 10 minutes, you're not going to have an interruption. By the way, speaking of difficult spaces, I've known a couple of people, moms with small children, that cannot find a quiet place to meditate. You may have to get creative. So in one case, it ended up the bathroom. So it doesn't sound very relaxing, but that's the one place she could go, close the door, and no one would bother her. And then we just created a little, like how she could make it a little nice space during that 10-minute period so that she could meditate. In another case, it was so crazy because of the number of children, we made it the car. So 10 minutes in the morning, she'd go out and just sit in her parked car. Do not meditate while driving, but just so you know, you can find a space somewhere to do this. Okay. And then once you have your space and you turn off your phone, you want to sit in a comfortable position where your back is comfortably as straight as possible. Now, the second step in getting ready is to breathe. So the best way to kind of preface to your body, to your system, that this is a special time is to take a couple or several deep cleansing breaths, always in through your nose if possible and out through your mouth. Check your belly, make sure your belly is extending, and then that it contracts on the out breath. And if you happen to be feeling particularly tense when you go to sit down, then sigh with relief on those out breaths. And then before you actually start, what I want you to do is, before you start meditating, just close your eyes, or if you prefer, you can keep them slightly open but out of focus, which usually helps if you look down. And you want to then give yourself permission. And this again is more of a cognitive technique. You're going to tell yourself, literally tell yourself, I give myself permission to take this 10-minute break. And if you're planning to do it longer, use the number that you're going to use. But you want to tell your whole system, I'm aware that I have 8 million things to do, but I'm giving myself permission to take this 10 minutes for my own well-being. Okay. So again, you're sending a cognitive signal. This is meditation time. And if you do that every day, you give yourself that permission, you'll find that you are less resistant, that your ego will calm down a little bit, and that the thoughts racing through your head, which they will, won't be so much about you know, you've got to get to work or you've got to get that done or whatever it is, because you've already alerted everyone for 10 minutes, we're not doing that. Okay, so that helps. Now, once you've gotten used to meditating, there's other kinds of meditation, which we'll do some of those, like focusing on an object. But at the beginning, when you're first learning, it's much better either to have a very dark room. If it's really bright outside, I'll put on an eye mask because I am really bad about getting distracted. And if it's light, you may know me, I tend to be kind of hyper. So I really need to shut down the outside world in order to meditate really deeply. So in the beginning, a dark room usually works best. Your eyes closed works best, but if for some reason that doesn't work for you, it's fine to adapt it. One of the other reasons that, like about picking your time, has to do with distractions. So I meditate really early in the morning because I am just easily aroused. I hear the birds, I hear animals, I hear the cat walking on the roof. Like things just distract me. So, and one just ran across the roof. That's hilarious. I find that if I do it early in the morning, my meditation goes more smoothly and I don't get frustrated. But you can choose. Maybe it's at night, maybe it's in the afternoon, maybe it's in the morning. Okay. So step 4 is to meditate. So meditation, a lot of people have the misunderstanding that meditation means you have no thoughts. Okay, and I'm going to tell you that if you have no thoughts, you're probably dead. We can't stop thinking. Our brain never shuts down. So it's okay to have thoughts. So meditation is the practice of being instead of doing. So if the best you can do at the beginning is just to sit still, that's okay. I've had many people approach me from this program saying, I can't do this, I can't do this. My brain's just going crazy. It will go crazy at first. You're introducing something new that you're not accustomed to. And our culture has just rammed into us that we are supposed to be busy, 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 busy every second of the day. So in a way, meditating is like you slamming on the brakes and your system is going to react. That's okay. So all you need to do to start meditating, especially here at the beginning, is just sit quietly and notice the thoughts that cross your mind. So you'll probably have an endless stream of them, random thoughts, especially when you first start. Again, that's okay. It's normal. We're not trying to stop the thoughts. We're not trying to stop it. We're not trying to control it. We're trying to learn to observe the thoughts. So you notice how they pop in and then they disappear. Or you notice that the same thought comes in, just keeps coming in. It's like your brain screaming at you. Okay, you're just noticing. That's all we're asking you to do to start. You're going to notice or observe your thoughts, and then keep in mind that this is why meditation is simple, but it's not necessarily easy. With practice, it'll get easier and easier and easier. And so now I said we don't try to control or limit our thoughts, but naturally, as you get better at meditating, the thoughts greatly subside. You still have thoughts though, but they're not so intrusive. So for any of you that feel that you cannot sit still for 10 minutes, and I'm not being funny about this, many people can't. I was one of them when I first started. I thought I was going to just crawl out of my skin. Start shorter. So I'm asking you for 10 minutes a day. If you can't sit still for those 10 minutes, then sit still as long as you can. Let's say it's 3 minutes. I had somebody in a class not that long ago, 2 minutes was her max, and she couldn't stand it. That's okay. If 2 minutes is the most you can do it, then start with the 2 minutes. But dedicate the 10 minutes to focusing on mindfulness. So if you can only sit still for 3 minutes, then I would suggest that you, in your meditation space, that you take maybe a reading material, something that's calming, something that's about meditation, something that's about thought, or maybe an affirmation, whatever it is that works for you. But if you at least try a couple of minutes of sitting still and noticing your thoughts, and then if you need to turn to an aid, that's okay. But just make sure you dedicate the 10 minutes. You're committing to 10 minutes a day. And then the idea with that would be if you can make it 3 minutes, make it the 3 minutes, but then within a couple of days, try to go 4 minutes. And then within a couple of days, so you want to keep extending until you get up to the 10 minutes. The maximum benefits of regular meditation all kick in at 20 minutes. So if you meditated every day for 20 minutes, over time you would get every benefit there is of doing this. But studies show 10 minutes is good too. So that's why we're starting with the 10 minutes. So you want to observe your thoughts, notice how they pop in and out, notice how they disappear. If you want to, while you're practicing until we start the series, because we're going to give you more techniques to help you kind of hone in, but if you want to practice in the meantime, if the thoughts are bothering you, you can visualize. So you can picture, you have a thought and picture it sitting on a cloud and floating away for the next 10 minutes. Or you can picture it being surrounded by a bubble and the bubble floats away. So you can play with your mind and your imagination to see if you can get some of it to slow down if it's really too uncomfortable for you. But otherwise, I just let them go through. My meditation teacher used a train. I could picture my thoughts getting on the train and the train rolls away because my thoughts were just very intrusive. But so we want it to work for you. If it's frustrating, stop and just wait for us to start on October 3rd. But the more you can start playing with it or practicing, the better off you'll be. So remember, meditation is simple but not necessarily easy. It takes regular practice to develop the skills necessary to achieve the full benefits. And most importantly, be patient with yourself. Don't tell yourself you're doing it wrong or that you're not good at it. You're simply sitting still, and that's a challenge for many of us. Okay, and then again, a reminder, there's a handout with these steps on it so that if you want to have it with you. Oh, and also at this point I should say, because I keep talking about time, if you want to use your smartphone, set it for 10 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever you're tracking, that's fine. That's, an okay use, I should say, but put it on airplane mode, okay, so that you're not getting beeped and whistled at. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the sitting meditation, and we're going to go much more into this once the program launches. But again, for those of you that want to start practicing now, I just want to show you, this is not a meditation, this is a demonstration, but you're welcome to do it along with me. But I want to show you basically what the steps would be. So we just talked about, you're going to go to your space, you're going to sit down in a chair or on the floor, you're going to take several cleansing breaths, you're going to give yourself permission to take this break. And then I'm going to start some meditation music. And I want to mention about this music that when you meditate, it's fine to use music. As I told you, I'm very auditory. I can hear everything happening. But if you're going to use music, I really suggest you use only meditation music. And I'll be sharing some of that with you throughout the series in the form of audio files that you can download. But if you don't want to wait, that's fine. There's a ton of it available. But the difference is meditation soundtracks or music or sounds are basically either different tones and chords or they're nature sounds. You don't want to use regular music. You don't want to use classical music. You don't want to use pop music, or even if it's a relaxing song. That is not good for meditation because part of your brain is going to disconnect from what you're doing and be either trying to hum along with the song or looking for a certain point of the song to come along or expecting a riff or whatever it is. So it's not the best, it's not the most conducive for meditating. So if you want to use music, I use music a lot when I meditate. I love it. It really helps me get in the mood. But then buy a meditation CD. Okay, or wait, and I'm going to give you some that you won't have to pay anything for. Whoops. All right, so now we've taken our breath, we've given ourselves permission, and we're going to just meditate, right? So you would close your eyes, and you're going to breathe normally. Okay, you don't have to worry about the deep breaths. Don't focus even on, whether your belly or your chest is rising. For these first meditations, then we want you to just sit quietly, and then you close your eyes, and you just focus on your breath. You're not worried about it. It happens automatically. There's nothing that you need to do, and you're just going to breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in, breathing out, and as the thoughts pop into your head, you're simply going to notice them and let them go, or just notice them. If they won't go away, you practice accepting that thought's just going to keep popping into your head. The important part is that you're breathing in and breathing out. And you can notice how effortlessly your body works. You don't have to do anything. The breath just happens. Breathing in and breathing out. You can think about how amazing it is, the body, the way it functions, and it's all effortless. You don't have to do anything. Just breathing in and breathing out. So as you complete your 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, once that time is done, or once your alarm goes off, and if you use an alarm, please use something subtle and calming, not a shocking alarm. But as you come out of your meditation, I want you right from the beginning to get in the habit of wiggling your fingers, and if you don't have closed-toed shoes on, wiggle your toes. If you do have shoes on, you can wiggle your feet. But as you learn to meditate and your meditations become longer, especially if you decide to really go into more deep meditation, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, there's a period of time right after that you're so relaxed, it's kind of a dreamy state. And I don't want you to stop meditating and then try to jump in your car and drive. I want you to take a moment to do what's called grounding. So you're going to wiggle around a little bit. You can stretch. I always like to reflect on what that felt like. It reinforces how lovely it is to relax. And then stand up slowly. And again, if you've wiggled around a little bit, you should be awake, more awake on the outside. Another thing that you can do and that I always suggest is that you drink some water. Also, by the way, before you meditate, if you're dehydrated, you feel thirsty, drink water before you start because you will relax better and your mind can respond better if it is hydrated. Okay, so that's really all there is to meditating, but there'd be about a 10-minute space of just that quiet, breathing in and breathing out. See, it's not hard. It just takes practice. So now let's talk about what you need for this training series, and it's very little. So number one, Start working now on where's your comfortable quiet space going to be to practice meditation or for contemplating thoughts and ideas. Again, remember we're going to do some mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. So we really want you to find that space before October 3rd so that it's all set up and you're ready to go. Second is, oh, I'm sorry, there's a huge truck going by. You need a journal. So we're going to ask you to record your mindfulness and meditation activities. You may be given journal assignments on one of the days of the week, and that journal is also going to help you complete the post-assessment because we're going to ask you questions about your experience. You can go back and look. One of them is going to be how much time you spent meditating or how many days a week on average you meditated. So you may want to come up with a system of how you're keeping track. By the way, with the journal, you can play with that too. If you just want to use a regular like student notebook, that's fine, but you might want to consider like a nice journal, almost like a diary or something pretty to look at. And it's only for your mindfulness and meditation activities. Okay, the third thing that you need for this training is an open mind and patience. So an open mind, really the most important aspect of having an open mind is believing that this is going to work. If you think in terms of when you you get sick and the doctor gives you an antibiotic. So you feel terrible, maybe you've got some horrible bug and you take the antibiotic. Well, you don't instantly feel better, right? It takes a while for the antibiotic to do its work. Meditation and mindfulness are like that. Meditation, you may struggle with it at first, but if you think of it like an antibiotic, it just hasn't kicked in yet. At some point it will, and then you'll really feel the benefits of it. And then patience because of having to wait during that time. If you want relief now from the stress and chaos of life, you're thinking, I want it right now, and you go to meditate and your brain is going crazy and it doesn't feel like it's helping. It truly is helping, and it changes the physical structure of your brain. So that takes time. So open mind and patience. And then obviously you need access to email and the internet. Everything that you're going to get written lessons or instructions or activities. You're going to receive videos. You're going to receive audio files. So make sure that you have access to your email. Whatever email address you sent us is where this is all going to go. And then additionally, everything that we're doing is being recorded, and then it'll be saved on a website, which will give you the address once the series starts so that you can go back and pull something up if you miss something. Now, beginning October 3rd, you'll receive a daily email prompting you to do an exercise, a meditation, a tapping session, or a contemplation on a topic of focus. Now, once again, the way you create a habit is you do the same thing over and over and over again. So we've structured this around the days of the week so that every Monday, you're going to get a new guided meditation, or you're going to get another meditation that maybe you did 3 months ago. I'm not going to promise we're not going to reuse any meditations because if they're good and useful, then we'll send them back out again. Then Tuesdays, we're going to do a tapping session. And the tapping sessions will be designed to support your meditation practice. For instance, the first one on October 4th will be about resisting meditation, but we'll also use tapping to address other issues around health, wellness, well-being. So the idea is to really fully support you. Wednesday is going to be a focus on wellness. So it may be, maybe it's mindful eating. Maybe it's got nothing to do directly with mindfulness, but it has to do with supporting your body or supporting your brain. Thursday thoughts are going to be contemplative, something for you to think about throughout the day. And then Friday's focus will include whatever we're going to focus on, plus what you can do on Saturday and Sunday of that week to keep reinforcing your practice. So you'll have support to cover 7 days a week. So you're encouraged to try each day's activity in the beginning so that you can find what resonates for you and what works for you. Meditation is the main tool to access and strengthen mindfulness, but the other tools are supplemental to help you find ways to overcome resistance, encourage overall good health, to encourage well-being, and to work on changing your neuropathy to better serve you. So, however, whichever works for you, if you've at least experienced each activity or each day of the week's activity, the type, and you can go through and decide what works best for you. So maybe you only want to do the Monday meditation every day of the week. That's absolutely fine. Again, we want you to use this how it works. So all we're going to do is ask you to at least open each email to see what it is and to not do that until you've gone through a few weeks because some of these take time to adjust to. then you can start picking and choosing, like, oh my gosh, that particular meditation made me feel so good. I want to do that every day. Or if you're really ambitious, you could do that every day plus whatever the activity of the day is. But however you approach it, just keep in mind the only way to truly cultivate mindfulness is to practice it every single day. You can start with as little as 10 minutes, which is what we're doing, and that's effective. It can be 10 minutes of something you come up with on your own or 10 minutes a day with the tools we provide. But we suggest you start with the tools we provide so that you have some structure and guidance in how to get started. And we'll be sharing resources with you and things that maybe we won't cover. We'll still tell you about them in case you want to research it on your own. So there'll be lots of opportunity to try different activities and different techniques till you kind of get the one that works the best for you. Whew, that was a lot of information. So does anyone have any questions? And while you're thinking about questions, I do want to say when you close out of this webinar, the survey will pop up. Please complete that survey. As all of you know, all the evaluations go in the quarterly reports, and so it's very helpful to me personally to get your feedback, but then I also need that information so that I can do my all-important reports. So if there are no questions, I don't see any questions coming up. But if questions pop into your head later, or if you have any concerns or need any clarification about anything we do throughout this entire series, I want to make sure you know you can just contact me. It could be something that's troubling you about it. It could be something that, you had a great experience, whatever it is. You can reach me at tmckee@paclac.org, and you can also call me. So my phone number is on the screen. It's 818-478-7336. Just know that I can usually get back to you faster via email. As you know, I'm usually in workshops or doing presentations, and so I can't make a phone call. But I do try to check my email when I'm on break or, when there's an activity going on to see if there's anything anyone needs. And so that's the fastest way to get an answer back from me is email, but you're welcome to leave me a voicemail, and I'll do my best to get back to you on the same day, and usually no later than the next day. So I greatly appreciate you participating in today's webinar to get a feel for what we're doing. And I look forward to working with you starting October 3rd. Please be sure to complete the survey, and thank you, and have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye. By the way, I'm still here if you have questions, so just let me know. You're welcome. When you log off, the evaluation will pop up, Danica. You're welcome. Have a great day. Oh, stop.